everybody, welcome back. So today I'm doing my weekly wrap-up or vlog for September 5th. So these are all the books that I finished, what I'm currently reading, and what I plan to pick up next. So I finished 8 books this week. So I did pretty good, but let's face it, the first 2, they were mangas. They were One Punch Man 14 and 15. I really enjoyed this series, and I like kind of picking up mangas at the end of the month to kind of have a break between one month to the next. So I read those at the end of August. It's a book about it's a series about superheroes and monsters and them fighting it out. And obviously the hero, One Punch Man, Saitama, is a superhero who has the ability to kill any monster with one punch. And everyone kind of thinks he's weak, so they pick on him a little bit, and they usually doesn't go well, and it's usually in a funny way. For all of his superpowers, he has sacrificed his identity, his feelings, his emotions, and his hair. And it's a lot of fun. Next book I finished was Jaws by Peter Benchley. This is kind of the classic horror on the water, killer white shark, and I guess going out to kill it, I will say it's not aged as well. We know a lot more about sharks now than they did at the making of this book. And some of the representations of women and people of color were very dated. I guess overall I kind of had a hard time with it because it just hadn't aged well. Plus, the movie being a classic, you continually compare them. There were parts I was waiting for in the book that didn't happen that happened in the movie. I don't think I can count that against the book, though. Next book I finished was The Miniaturist by Jessie, Burton. And this is a historical fiction that has elements of magical realism about this woman who, her family doesn't have any money anymore, and they're trying to find her a good match so that her and the family will be taken care of financially. And she marries this guy who has not very much interest in her, and she kind of doesn't know what she's supposed to do. She feels like she's a failure as a female because she's not living up to what she's supposed to be doing, and finds out that her husband is in fact gay, and of course, because this is the 1600s, if anyone finds out about it, he will die. Overall, the book was really good. The part with the miniaturist, which was this woman who was working a trade she wasn't supposed to, but she would send her these little miniatures that would kind of foreshadow what was going to happen in her life. That part of it, it wasn't horrible, it just wasn't, I just didn't think it was that great. I think that the novel would have been fine without that element. Next book that I finished was Perfume by Patrick Suskind. This is a story about a murderer. That's what it says right on it. It's a story about a murderer. It's about a child who was born but he has no scent of his own, so he's like a scentless person. But he has this great sense of smell, and he kind of goes around gathering all the best smells to create the ultimate perfume. In order to do this, he ends up killing people. Well, it was interesting. It wasn't like a horrible book. I actually quite enjoyed it. The prose was a little bit weird, and the way that it was written was a little bit weird, but overall it was pretty good. The next book that I finished was Wolf by Wolf by Ryan Grauding, and this is a alternate history if Hitler had won World War II, and there is, I guess you would say, one of his human experiments is coming to assassinate him. So it was a lot of fun to read. There's another book in the series, so I'll be excited to pick it up. The next book that I finally finished was The Wandering End, Book 3, Part 1, Flowers of Esthelm. And this is by Pirateaba. This is an online series. I don't know how often they post things, but I believe they're up to book 8. But you can also get the audiobooks. And this was the audiobook. This series is about people from our world who are transported to a magical world. And now they have to have a life in this magical world, and some of them are pretty good out of it, and some of them aren't. And our 2 main characters from our world are Ryoka, who is a runner, and because she's from our world, of course, she's a barefoot runner. And then we have Aaron Solstice, who owns the Wandering Inn. And it's kind of like their day-to-day activities in this world. But we also have like adventurers. We have the Horns of Hammerod, who are the adventurers that they follow. They're all from the magical world. And so they go on adventures. The biggest problem with it is that there's this element to it, like that they level up. And I mean, it's not super annoying in this book, but it's probably like the biggest thing that I don't like about it. And the next one, the last book that I finished was My Dark Vanessa by Elizabeth Kate Russell. And this is about a girl who is manipulated and abused by a teacher at school when she's 15. And then when she's in her 30s, this man is being charged with some molestation of other children at the school. And it's about her kind of coming to terms with what happened to her and trying to decide how she feels about the current situation. It's really hard. It was really hard to read. It was really kind of gut-wrenching as you see like how much she's manipulated by this man, and even as she is getting older and he stays in contact with her, how she's continually being manipulated by him. So those are all the books that I finished this week. Next we'll get into the ones that I'm currently reading. Currently I'm reading Shadowrise by Tad Williams, and this is the third book in the Shadow March trilogy about a pair of twins who are left in charge of their kingdom, and their kingdom's under attack both from within and without, and it's them trying to save their kingdom. And because of the attack is coming from the Carr, which are, I guess, fairies, it's also an attack on the world, and if they have to save their kingdom in order to save the world. And I'm almost done with that. I should finish that today. The next book that I'm currently reading is No One Cares About Crazy People, The Chaos and Heartache of Mental Health in America by Ron Powers. This one was written by a man whose children both have schizophrenia, and it is his journey through the mental health system in America. Next, with my kids, I'm picked up Lux by Brandon Sanderson and Stephen Bohls, and this is a new book in the Reckoners series, but it follows a different group of people. This one is the Texas Reckoners. Reckoners is a series about people who get superpowers, but the superpowers corrupt them, so they're all supervillains. Next, I picked up Legacy of Ash by Matthew Ward. This is a fantasy series, and I just started it, but it's got like political intrigue and assassins and all that kind of stuff that you would expect from a fantasy series. I am also reading Will of Ascension with my kids at night. So we're getting into this and hope to be able to read that this month. So those are the ones that I'm currently reading. Next, when I'm done with those, here's the things I plan to pick up. So the books I plan to pick up next is The Alienist by Caleb Carr. And this takes place in the 1800s. The alienist is a therapist, so I expect that there will be some interesting practices considering what the field of psychotherapy was like at that time. The next one that I'll pick up is Worldbinder by David Farland. This is the 6th book in the Rune Lord series, and this takes place in a world where magical abilities have to be given to you by someone else. So if you want to have more beauty, you would take glamour from somebody else. And so all these people give the Rune Lords these abilities to give them the ability to fight for the country. And it's really sad as far as the people that have to give everything up, they end up in really bad. Like if they give up obviously, if they give up their glamour, suddenly they become ugly, but also like they lose their sense of that they could ever be beautiful to anyone. If they lose their wit, then they no longer can take care of themselves. So all of the delegates have to live in these houses where people take care of them. And then the last book that I plan to pick up next is Deadly Waters by Hutchinson. I'm not sure how this one's going to go. I can't say that I absolutely loved her collector series. I just kind of didn't feel like I knew where it was going other than let's just talk about death and torture of people. And this is another one where it's a serial killer series. I believe there's more than one book in the series. I'll see how much I like it. So anyway, those are the books that I finished this week, the ones that I plan to pick up, and what I'm currently reading. I put new videos out Monday through Thursday. Thanks for watching.